Y'all, Wizard101 just announced a bunch of major spell bans. A lot of people feel strongly about this. I feel strongly about this. We need to talk about it. So today, the people that work on Wizard101 did a developer live stream where they basically officially confirmed the spells that are getting banned in PvP in the next update. Now, these are the spells we're no longer going to be able to use in PvP. The spells that are going to be affected are the Storm Elf item card, the top path of Scales of Destiny, and the top path of every Golem spell other than the balance one. Now, if y'all have done any PvP this season, you would probably know that it's kind of a hot mess right now. We needed a real change. I want to talk about how all of these things are going to affect the meta, where I think the meta is going to move. Is this a good change, a bad change? Is this change even enough? Let's start right off with the elephant in the room, in my opinion. I think Storm Elf is one of the craziest spells that is still currently in the game. There's a lot of reasons why I think Storm Elf should have been banned a long time ago. Let's call this spell what it is. It's basically a crutch for every Storm Wizard to basically do damage when someone Storm Shields against you. And it's not a small amount of damage, right? The pet that gives 3 Storm Elves, it's essentially giving you at least 3,000 damage through shields against any school in the game, considering the fact that some schools don't even have that much health to begin with. 3,000 damage? That is a lot. Now, why does a 2-pip spell do thousands and thousands of damage, you might ask? Well, the issue is 2 things. One, this is a storm damage per pip spell. Every 2-pip spell that you would ever use on a storm does quite a bit of damage. But if y'all didn't know, dots also get a 25% damage boost. So basically, you're essentially doing like a top path spellmented lightning bat's worth of damage, except it doesn't matter if there's a shield or not. That is serious. So let's say in some imaginary world, Storm was supposed to be good against shields as a damage school, or it was supposed to be an overtime school when it's actually a blade weakness and heal school. This would still be a problematic spell. A school like Storm that can literally do thousands and thousands of damage the second they hit 10 pips with the most damage in the game, a spell like this was always going to be breaking the game. Storm was getting to the point where all you really had to do was catch in the day into an elf, into an owl, and you would kill every myth in queue, every fire in queue, storms in queue. You would probably kill balances that let you do this in queue. The only reason Storm even had counter matchups for the past couple of seasons is because the catch of the day part of that is a blade, and some schools like Death are good against blades. That's really it. I feel like this spell basically makes half of Storm's toolkit, if not more, completely irrelevant, and it makes some matchups completely unwinnable. Now, what is interesting to me is that they paired the Storm Elf ban with the Golem ban. Now, if y'all don't know, right, the top path of several Golems that are in the game, especially for non-shield schools, right, they actually give you tons of damage while shielding, right? So like Fire, right? Fire is based on their own spells, their own updates, their own buffs and nerfs that they've added over the many years. Fire is a dot, hot, and trap school. This spell used against Ice and Storm was absolutely crazy, right? It's giving them thousands of damage while giving shields. Very similarly broken for the same logic that Storm Elf was breaking the game. I'll be honest, since every single school had a Golem, I actually think that this does not make as much sense as a Storm Elf ban, but we're still looking at, you know, out of identity things, so I don't mind that they're pairing it. I honestly think there were other priorities beyond that, including Storm Elf, but I don't mind that this was paired, me personally. Now, are Storms going to be unable to deal with shields as a result of this pet getting banned? Absolutely not. There is a Rain Beetle pet that gives 4 1-pip beetles that literally hit and blade. That's going to be something that can literally break many shields while buffing you. And I think people are acting like Shrike doesn't exist. People are acting like you can't just break a shield with Catch in the Day, Wand Hits, Hitting Bubbles, Berry Surprise. If you want to go into Fire, you could run Fire Elf, you could run Elephant to be good against shield. I think pretending that there is a need for Storm to be doing at least 1,000 per overtime and breaking future Storm shields, acting like that's a requirement for Storm being good is crazy. I think it's just OP. I have Marshall for the first time ever last season, for the first time ever. And what I found very frustrating about it is it was one of the easiest Marshalls I've ever made in any season. It is brain dead stupid. I'm very happy to see the spell go. I'm just as happy to see Golems go if it means that the toolkits of other schools can be more OP in the directions that they're building. Now, let's talk about Scales of Destiny, right? Right now, there's both a bottom path and a top path to this spell. They're looking like they're banning the top path of the spell from PvP. PvP. Now, why is this spell absolutely idiotic, stupid, dumb, brain dead, whatever word you want to use? It's because those 2 school pips on it basically just give them, I guess, the ability to make the spell as OP as they can make any spell. This spell does 675 damage and hits essentially through tower shields, which is the one real debuff that you could use against balance. And I don't mind the fact that it makes tower shields worse. I don't mind that. I think triple hits are a cool little balance mechanic. But in my opinion, that is a utility. A spell should take some sort of damage per pip hit for the utility. Otherwise, you're just gonna spam this with or without shields out. That's basically what's happening right now. These 2 school pips make the spell do about 175 more damage than other spells at 5 pips. Right, a 5 pip judge is only doing 500 damage. A 5 pip lore spell could do anywhere from 540 damage to a measly 430 damage. And yet scales, because both school pips on the spell go into the damage of it, it just does way over. With the top path banned, the bottom path presumably will still be used. I'm gonna say this right now. I don't know if y'all see all the extra mumbo jumbo on the bottom path. The bottom path is still overpowered, and I hope that they actually address the damage on this. They're going out of their way to put in a hotfix for scales. It makes absolutely no sense to ban the top path and not do something about the bottom path. If y'all don't know how the bottom path works is, let's say that, you know, you've hit your opponent with this life, this ice, and balance damage for 600 damage, by the way, which is already much higher than a normal balance spell, with the added bonus of being able to hit through shields, right? Let's keep all that in mind. What the bottom path does is, if there's shields left over after this hit, it will give you a 65 shield, and additionally, if there's a heal on the opponent, it can give you a 5-round 580 heal. Now, this little healing identity is actually better than you might assume, because balance can actually run outgoing pins. The fact of the matter is, because of all this extra added utility with the damage being already above what a 5 pip spell would do, this was already a better spell than any other spell in Balance's toolkit. People are only using the top path of scales because when they get other balances, they would be at a disadvantage. I'll take progress where we get it. If y'all have faced any balances in the meta, there is no such thing as other balance spells. They will just spam this, and they will kill almost every school based on just spamming 6 of these alone. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. They made this entire idea of balance being like, I don't know, like using other schools with chromatic hits. They made it like, you know, a thing that swaps stuff, that echoes stuff. They went through all the effort of that, and yet all you're ever gonna see the highest ranked balances do is go into Q, switch their pips to life and ice, and spam this. This spell is the most unhealthy spell in the current meta. The fact that it's even getting banned slightly is a good thing. I don't think the top path ban alone will fix this. I hope they're thinking about what they're gonna make the bottom path numbers do, so that we're not gonna have another meta held hostage by this till they decide it's finally time to deal with it again. I do also want to talk about how these, like, you know, proposed changes are actually responding to the feedback on this meta. And I've really been thinking about this a lot. Like, I am not personally enjoying this meta whatsoever. Ever since a shadow update, it has been borderline unplayable, and I've really been trying to put into words why I feel this way. And frankly, I think now I kind of get it. This is simply put the most Google Doc meta I have ever seen in my goddamn life. And I guess I haven't been here for that long, but it's bad. What do I mean by Google Doc meta? Like have you ever, like, you know, received an instruction manual to, like, you know, construct like something, like, I don't know, like a table or something? PvP on 4 different schools has literally been watered down to like a set of IKEA instructions. And I really mean that. If you go against fire, if you go against storm, if you go against myth, if you go against balance, chances are their entire strategy is going to be based on one spell. While Storm Elf and Scales address the storm and balance, you know, Google Doc formula, what I haven't seen any indication of them doing is fixing the issue with a moot. This is arguably just as bad as Scales and Elf. However, Elf and Scales have just been a problem for so much longer that the fatigue of having to deal with them, I think, has overshadowed this. Right now, there are no counters that can deal with a 7-pip triple dot, and Fire, when they have 3 dots on their opponent, can do tons of extra damage up front and do even more damage with spells like a free. Whether you carry Leviathan, Toiret, Zilla, King Art, doesn't really matter. This is cheaper to spam and get extra damage every time you spam it, and have the chance of doing more damage with it than any of the counters. Before the Spell Fusion update, the easiest way to get a 3 dots on your opponent was to use 9 pips, and that would be a lot easier, right? We're talking about spells like Base Jin, Rain of Fire, it was much harder to do a Rain of Fire or a Jhin into an Ifrit. It was much harder to do a Rain of Fire or Jhin into a Scion. It gave the opponent just a little bit of a window to actually keep up with things. I hope that they consider that this update. If we're trying to change the meta in the spirit of, like, I don't know, freeing it from, like, you know, the hostage situation that it is, from the Google Docs ass formulas, a moot is absolutely one of them. It is rare to see any fire not just literally blade furnace a moot and then just rinse and repeat that entire approach for an entire game. It doesn't matter what school pips your opponent has, doesn't matter what matchup it is, right? Even schools that are good against dots will die to it as long as you just keep on spamming a moot. That is a serious problem, just like scale spam is, just like owl spam is, just like all of those. I think it should have been in the conversation. I really hope they still have time to do it. I think it's a very, very simple change. Just accept the fact, even with spell fusion, a 7-pip spell that gives 3 dots is broken because the counters don't keep up. You might be wondering what the 4th Google dot school is. In my opinion, I think myth. I think you just blade up and you could either hit through debuffs or Jhin. At least there's a little layer of thinking beyond, because, like, you know, people respond to your blades. People will actually, like, you know, debuff in a way that will make it harder for you to maybe one-shot. But I would love to see a world where myth also has the ability to use more of its toolkit rather than just base Jhin with a bunch of buffs. That, at least, I'm willing to put up with it if they could deal with the other Google Doc nonsense, because I think the queue would enormously benefit from Scales, Elf, and Amoot all being addressed this update in meaningful ways. I think the Storm Elf ban is the only thing I'm seeing here that's going to meaningfully change the update. Other things seem like band-aid fixes that aren't even going to address the root cause of what makes this meta so formula heavy, so annoying, and so not diverse. So that's my 2 cents on all of this. Hopefully, you know, if y'all didn't know about the upcoming spell changes, you know about them now. These are the confirmed changes. I think there's been a lot of speculation, and the fact that it's next update confirmed is big, but I'm sure the comment section is gonna go crazy on this video. Do y'all support these spell changes? Which spell changes would you like to see maybe make it in this update even though it hasn't been confirmed yet? And what would you want the devs to do to make it so that PvP is more fun for you? Maybe more spells are involved. I think that's the end goal for me at this point. I want to see more spells, y'all. Drop a like if you enjoyed, leave a sub if you're new, and as always, if somebody hasn't told you you're awesome today, they doing something wrong. Stay awesome. See y'all soon. And yeah.